What would you do if a billionaire stood up in the middle of a five-star restaurant, pointed at a homeless woman and declared, "She's with me"? Would you think it was a cruel joke, a scandal in the making, or the beginning of something no one, especially him, could have predicted? That's exactly what happened the night Nathan Carter, one of New York City's most powerful tycoons, made a reckless vow to marry the next woman who walked through the doors of the Hudson Ivy. He wasn't expecting Claire Bennett. She wasn't expecting anyone to notice her at all. But what began as a strange dare quickly spiraled into a storm of secrets, betrayal, and a love that shook the foundations of an empire. From viral headlines and whispered threats to a boardroom showdown that could end everything, this isn't just a romance. It's a story about risk, redemption, and what happens when the most unlikely person dares to believe they're enough. Stay with us. Because the moment you think you know how this ends, something else steps through the door. Nathan Carter, one of the most powerful financial figures in New York City, had everything: wealth, skyscrapers bearing his name, and a legacy that stretched back generations. But inside the Hudson Ivy, a high-end restaurant overlooking the Hudson River, Nathan sat, swirling his Bordeaux eyes, cold but restless, as if searching for something beyond the wine glass. "I'm serious, Michael," he muttered, barely glancing up. "The next woman who walks through that door, I'm going to marry her." Michael Brooks, his longtime attorney, and the only person left in his life who dared to argue with him, nearly choked on his drink. "You've officially lost your mind." "Have I?" Nathan said with a glint in his eye. "The board's breathing down my neck. They want a male heir to secure the Carter legacy. I'm tired of playing by their rules. If I can't find what they want, maybe fate will send me what I need." Michael stared at him. "You're not talking about a date. You're talking about a marriage." Nathan raised his glass in a mock toast. "May destiny surprise us all." Just then, the heavy glass door creaked open. Everyone turned. But it wasn't a model or heiress, not even a businesswoman in heels and pearls. It was a woman in torn jeans and a worn-out jacket, her dark hair matted from rain, a canvas backpack clutched tightly to her chest. She paused inside the doorway, blinking at the golden chandeliers, the velvet booths, the startled eyes now pinned on her like spotlights. Her name was Claire Bennett, and she had no idea that one step into that room would unravel every life inside it. Security was already moving toward her, and a waitress nervously tried to intercept. But Nathan stood up, his voice ringing out, confident and deliberate. "She's with me." The entire restaurant went still. Michael muttered under his breath, "You can't be serious." Nathan ignored him. He approached Claire like she was royalty, while she looked at him like he was insane. "I'm Nathan Carter," he said, offering his hand with a smile as polished as his suit. "Would you care to join me for dinner?" Claire hesitated. Her voice was rough from the cold, her eyes sharp with distrust. "Why? Because I made a promise," Nathan said calmly. And fate seems to have a sense of humor. Against every instinct screaming in her head, Claire placed her calloused hand into his. Back at the penthouse, everything was too clean, too cold, too high above the real world she knew. Priceless art lined the walls. The city lights sparkled beneath floor-to-ceiling windows. Claire sat stiff and silent on a leather couch that probably cost more than she'd made in her life. "Why am I here?" she asked. Nathan sat across from her, his voice quieter now. "Because I want to marry you." Claire stood so abruptly her coffee nearly spilled. "What kind of sick game is this? I'm not some punchline in your rich boy crisis." "It's not a game," Nathan replied, his tone steady but strained. "I made a vow and you walked through that door." Claire narrowed her eyes. "You don't know anything about me." "Maybe I'd like to," he said. Something about his voice. It didn't sound like manipulation. It sounded like a man clinging to something real for the first time in a long, long time. Still, she didn't trust him. Not yet. Across the city in a quiet brownstone in Soho, Rebecca Carter scrolled through her phone. Her coffee went cold as she read the headline, "Billionaire Nathan Carter makes scene with homeless woman at Hudson Ivy." She blinked. "Oh no, Nathan. What are you doing now?" The next morning, Claire found herself staring at an untouched breakfast in a penthouse kitchen too beautiful to be real. Nathan appeared casual for once, jeans sweater, no tie, no arrogance. "Did you sleep?" he asked. She didn't answer. "Why are you really doing this?" she finally said. He looked at her, and something flickered in his eyes, something tired, maybe even desperate. "I meant what I said. I made a vow. And yeah, maybe I wanted to flip the rules. Maybe I was fed up with legacy and expectations and cold boardrooms. But when you walked through that door, it wasn't about the bet anymore." Claire folded her arms. "You don't even know me. That's why I want to get to know you. No pressure, no wedding bells tomorrow. Just time. Let's see if this crazy thing has a heartbeat." She studied him for a long time. "Fine," she said finally. "But I need my own place. Not this glass castle." Nathan smiled. Done. What followed was the strangest week of Claire's life. Nathan moved her into a modest apartment near Soho, safe, warm, private. A wardrobe appeared carefully curated. Etiquette lessons were gently offered, not forced. But Claire kept her walls up. She wandered bookstores. She walked in the rain. She drank cheap coffee and watched her name spread like wildfire across gossip blogs. Meanwhile, Nathan, once the Ice King of Wall Street, was smiling in photos for the first time in years, until one morning a note was slipped under Claire's door. 4 words. "You don't know him. I'm so sorry to interrupt the story here, but this is only the beginning. Now let me ask you this. If you were Claire, would you have accepted Nathan's invitation or walked away forever? Do you believe a single moment can rewrite an entire life? Tell us in the comments and let us know where you're watching from. If this story moved you so far, please drop a like and a heart to support it. Your encouragement means everything." Claire didn't sleep much that week. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashing cameras, heard the whispers. Is she the next Cinderella? Is this a scam? What's her angle? She wasn't trying to be anything. She just wanted a moment to breathe. But the world didn't care. And the man who dragged her into this whirlwind, Nathan Carter, kept insisting she was part of something bigger than chaos. On the 4th night, Claire stepped out of the shower in her Soho apartment to find a small envelope slid under her door. No return address, no stamp. Inside was a single photo. Nathan, much younger, arm wrapped tightly around a woman. Not Rebecca, not a stranger either. There was something familiar about the woman's face, the kind of familiarity that sends a chill straight to your spine. On the back of the photo in bold red ink, "You're just the next one." Claire's heart pounded. She stared at the photo for a long minute before setting it aside face down. By the time morning came, she had decided she needed answers. From him, but someone else was already looking for her. At a small cafe near Washington Square, Claire was sipping black coffee when a woman approached her table with calm, precise steps. She wore a tailored blazer, not a hair out of place. Her presence was like a storm that hadn't broken yet. Claire looked up and said without hesitation, "You're Rebecca." Rebecca Carter gave a tight smile and sat across from her without asking. "And you're Claire, the woman my ex-husband met on a dare and decided to hand over his entire empire for." Claire expected sarcasm, anger, bitterness, but Rebecca just folded her hands. "I didn't come to fight you. I came to understand you." Claire stayed quiet. "Because if this is real, if you're serious, then you deserve to know what you're walking into." And so they talked. For an hour, Rebecca painted a portrait of the man Claire was still trying to understand. She spoke of ambition so blinding it destroyed every tender thing in its path, of how Nathan had once chosen power over people, of the cold silences, the years she spent being a ghost in her own marriage. "I don't hate you," Rebecca said as she rose to leave. "I don't even blame you, but I need to know you're not just another temporary storm, because my daughter, she's watching." Claire said nothing. Her hands trembled as she lifted her cup again. That night, Claire stood outside Nathan's penthouse, fists balled in the pockets of her jacket, the photo still in her bag. When he opened the door and saw her face, the smile faded instantly. "Your ex-wife came to see me," she said flatly. Nathan stepped aside and Claire walked in without waiting for an invitation. "She didn't come to warn me," Claire continued. "She came to understand me, which is more than I can say for you." Nathan looked wounded. "I never meant to hurt her. I believe you, but that doesn't mean you didn't." He swallowed hard. "There's something else," Claire added, pulling out the photo and laying it face up on the table. "Someone wants me to see this. Someone wants me to doubt you." Nathan's face went pale, not with shock, with recognition. "Where did you get this?" he asked, voice suddenly low. "Under my door. That woman, her name was Elise. She was part of a deal gone wrong years ago. She died in a car crash. The media never connected it to me, but he trailed off, rubbing his face. Her brother always believed I was responsible. He tried to take me down once before. Now he's coming back." Claire stared at him. "And me? I'm just collateral damage." "No," Nathan said, stepping forward. "You're the part I didn't plan for. The part I can't control." Claire's eyes welled up. "I've spent years surviving, Nathan, on my own. You can't just pull me into your world and expect me to wear the crown while snipers aim at my chest." "I don't want you to wear a crown," he whispered. "I want you to walk beside me, as you are. But I understand if you walk away." Claire didn't walk away. Not yet. The next morning, Nathan received a call from Michael. "They're moving fast," Michael said. "There's an emergency board meeting scheduled tomorrow. Allegations are coming in. Misuse of company funds, favoritism, leaks." Claire's name is all over it. Nathan stared at the skyline through his office window. "They're trying to destroy us. They think she's a con artist, Nathan. And some of the board, hell, even investors are buying it." Claire read the headlines alone in her apartment. "The rise and fall of Carter Holdings, from park bench to power, who really is? Claire Bennett, a romance or a racket?" A knock on her door startled her. Rebecca stood there holding 2 coffees. "I figured you'd be here," she said gently. "I didn't do anything wrong," Claire whispered. "I know," Rebecca replied. "But truth doesn't always win. Not unless someone's brave enough to fight for it." Claire swallowed hard. "You still want that chance?" Rebecca asked. "Then take it. Not just for him, for yourself." "I'm so sorry to stop the story here, but the storm is just beginning. Now I want to ask you, if you were Claire, would you walk into that boardroom and defend the man who risked everything for you? And if someone from his past showed up with secrets he never told you, would you stay or leave? Tell me in the comments and let me know which country you're watching from. If this chapter touched something in you, please tap the like button and drop a heart to support this story. The boardroom on the 36th floor of Carter Holdings was silent, too silent. Nathan Carter stood alone at the head of the long glass table, the skyline of New York City blazing behind him like a battlefield at dusk. His tie was loosened, but his voice was firm, unwavering. "I did not misuse company funds. Everything spent on Claire Bennett came from my personal account." A board member scoffed. "You brought scandal into this company. You've made a mockery of your legacy." "I built this legacy," Nathan shot back, steel in his voice. "And I built it by taking risks no one else dared. You all applauded me for it when the profits rolled in. But the moment I took a risk with my heart, you act like I've betrayed the firm." Before another word could be spoken, the double doors creaked open. Every head turned. Claire Bennett stepped into the room in a simple navy dress, her hair pulled back, no makeup, no stylist, just truth. Her steps were steady despite the firestorm waiting inside. A few gasps echoed as cameras flashed from outside the hallway. "This is private board business," one member snapped. "She stays," Nathan said. His voice didn't rise, it cut. Claire faced the room, eyes calm, voice steady. "I know I wasn't invited, but I have something to say." She looked at each face one by one. No fear, only resolve. "I don't want Nathan's money. I don't want his empire. I didn't ask to be pulled out of the shadows and dropped into this storm. But he did. And every day since, I waited for him to wake up to see who I really was and walk away." Her voice cracked slightly. He never did. Silence gripped the room like ice. "I've slept on sidewalks. I've begged for bus fare. I've eaten out of dumpsters. I've been invisible to this city. But I never lied. I never scammed anyone. And I'd rather go back to that life than let you destroy a man for daring to believe someone like me was worth something." The oldest board member leaned forward. "Miss Bennett, if you're not after money or fame, why are you still here?" Claire turned to Nathan. "Because I love him, but also because, for the first time in my life, someone looked at me and didn't ask me to be anything but myself. And that is enough." There was a long, aching pause, then a quiet murmur between board members. Finally, the chairman spoke. "Mr. Carter, the board has voted. You may keep your position on one condition." You step down from daily operations and name a co-director. Nathan didn't hesitate. I appoint Isabel Carter. Gasps, murmurs, but no one objected. 3 months later, autumn leaves drifted through Central Park as Claire walked barefoot through the grass in a simple white dress. There were no reporters, no designers, no six-figure flowers. Just Nathan waiting for her beneath an oak tree, wearing a gray suit and a smile full of something pure. Rebecca stood beside Isabel, who held the wedding bands in her open palm. Michael Brooks gave the shortest, most emotional speech of his life. When the minister asked Claire if she took Nathan as her husband, she laughed, not mockingly, but with wonder. "I do," she whispered. As dusk fell, they slipped away to a quiet bench far from the guests. Nathan took her hand, kissed it slowly. "Do you regret any of it?" she asked. "Even the scandals, the threats, the headlines?" He smiled. "I'd go through every fire again, if it meant finding you at the end." She leaned into him, heart full not of fear, not of doubt, but peace. They didn't go back to the penthouse. They moved into a modest brownstone in Brooklyn. Claire refused to leave her job at the women's shelter. Nathan started teaching finance one night a week at a local college, where he rewrote his curriculum to include compassion and community, not just numbers and legacy. Together, they launched the Claire Initiative, a nonprofit providing transitional housing and job training for women trying to escape the shadows Claire once lived in. One day, a quiet envelope arrived at their doorstep. Inside was a handwritten note. "You didn't just save Nathan, you saved all of us. Thank you, Rebecca." And in time, even the headlines changed. Not the billionaire who fell, but the woman who rose. Now let me ask you, if you had one moment to speak in front of a room that held your future in its hands, would you choose silence, or would you speak your truth no matter the risk? And if someone believed in your worth when you didn't believe in yourself, would you run from it or fight to be worthy of that love? What do you think of this story? Comment number 3 if you loved it, number 2 if it felt just okay, or number 1 if it didn't meet your expectations. Let us know what country you're watching from, and if this story moved you, please like, share, and drop a heart to support stories that remind us sometimes the biggest risks lead to the most human victories.